Alright, welcome back to the channel. Somehow I erased my original intro to this video, so all that stuff is new. And you're about to see how I did it. And action. See here, I've used a piece of heavy grit sandpaper, just fold it over and just kind of freehand ground this groove in there, which is pretty close. So I'll glue it together and then probably run a drill bit in there just by hand, just to make sure it's big enough. And then we'll glue the balsa on it and shape it out. Alright, that worked out pretty slick. It fit perfect. And I'm going to sit and drive for a while. I'm going to go inside, probably watch a movie with the family. Anyways, I'll probably cut it off right there for tonight. I'm trying to keep these videos a little bit shorter that way. It's not some super long, drawn out video. So anyways, pretty stoked. Everything's sheeted. Tails are ready to be shaped out and cut apart for flight controls and hinge and everything, so things are moving really quick on this airplane. I'm super stoked, and I mean, I'll definitely be flying by Christmas time. So that was the goal, and once I get the parts out of the blanks tomorrow, we'll weigh everything and see where we're at with weight, take a before and after weight before we add all the balsa wood and everything to them. So anyways, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Maybe you learned something. If you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comments, and we'll see you in the next episode. Alright, welcome back to episode 6 on the T-38 build. So I've got the elevators rough shaped out, and I got some balsa cut. So I'm doing 1/4 inch in the front, 3/4 inch in the back, and then 1/4 inch in the tip. Then once I get that glued on and carved out, then I'll cut out my control surface. So anyways, let's get this wood glue done. Alright, so here we have our first stab. So what I did was the leading and trailing edges first. Needs a little spackle on the transitions in a couple of spots. But anyways, I did the front and the back first, and then I carved them down with a balsa carver, and then sanded them in, and then added the tip. So as you can see, the tip has a nice airfoil shape. I go down to about a 1/16 of an inch on the trailing edge. Come on, focus. And about an 1/8 inch radius on the front side. So you could do this without balsa, but this adds a lot of strength, and it's just harder to damage in transportation and handling. It just looks nicer having a nice thin trailing edge. If you were to sand the Depron into that thin of a trailing edge, it would just be a nightmare. So anyways, this is it. I need to cut out the flight control, but first I'm going to get this other one carved up. So just for reference, this one weighs 0.7 ounce, this one weighs 1 ounce. So by the time I add the balsa in here for the hinge line on the flight control, it'll probably be close to double the weight of the original one, but so much stronger. So a huge part of adding this wood is making this a stiffer flight control. So yeah, it adds weight, but not that much, and it just makes a nicer airplane. Alright, so we have the stabs done up. So I've drawn out my flight control, and I'm going to cut it out so I'm going to have balsa on both sides of the hinge line. So it is a pretty good size flight control. There is a natural panel line that kind of runs right through here. I didn't want to have just like a straight elevator back there. Didn't think that would look good. You have to excuse the noise. The neighbor's tree fell down. So anyways, I got to cut this 1/2 inch strip out of here and put balsa on both sides, and then we'll go from there. Alright guys, so we're on to the next step here. I've already got the flight controls cut out, and what I've done here is, I'll show you what I'm doing here in a second, but I've added 1/64 plywood to the hinge line. So if you use row-barred hinges, you round off the front section here and you recess the hinges farther inside. Basically what happens is that flight control rides inside of this, so you don't have some huge gap you're looking at. Let's see. A lot of my hanger jets are done that way, so it's the aileron. Same way with this. I forgot how stiff these servos are. So you see how it's not a perfect gap, but it stays really nice and close. One of my biggest pet peeves with models is someone that makes a really nice model and then like on the flaps will just like have like a huge V cut on the back of the flap, and they'll hinge on the top, and then it just looks terrible. You get these big huge gaps on all the flight controls and stuff, and it just doesn't look good. I mean, granted, there's some models, sure, like this one where you just do a V sand on it. It's a strip aileron. Now you see I've done row bar hinges here with the round edge, but without the seal, if you will. A lot of airplanes, the real ones, actually weren't sealed. Like a lot of older warbirds and stuff, it's just the way they were. But anyways, because this airplane isn't supposed to have a separate elevator, I'm doing this so it looks a little bit nicer, but also it forms a C-channel spar basically along the balsa wood and makes these things really stiff without adding hardly any extra weight. So anyways, this one's got a spackle on it already, so that's curing. But so the way you do that is, because you could just glue the piece on and then fill it in, but that doesn't look that great either and adds weight. So the way you do it is you take a straight edge, a ruler, you line it up there. You'll take a large flat blade screwdriver, that's what I use. You can use other things. You could probably use the butt end of a blade or something. But you hold the scale down and you run this along and you kind of just smush the wood down. You can also kind of run it back this way and kind of like scrape the wood off, or you can hold it there and run a block next to it and sand it down. So it doesn't take much. You can kind of, I don't know if you can see it or not. There's like a little edge there. You can see it better on this side. So this is it's already been done. So I smushed it down, and now I just cut these 4/10 of an inch wide strips and glue them down. So if you've never done row bar hinges before, you put them on center, and then you mark them out on this side. You kind of have to make like kind of like a bigger slot for the hinge to fit in there, because the hinge point, the rotation point of the hinge has to be on center with that radius. Otherwise, if not, then it won't really actuate properly and fit good. You'll end up having to open up the gap to make it move enough, and then you have a big gap again. So this way it works. Pretty simple once you do it a few times. It's not that hard really, and it makes a really nice looking model, and it really stiffens up the flight controls. So anyways, just gotta get these glued on, and we'll be done with the stabs. I got the vertical out of the blanks and trimmed it, sanded off the edges, and it's way stiffer than I remember the F-18 flight controls being without any wood on it. Pretty stoked on that. Really turned out really nice. So same thing with this. I got to add balsa wood to the leading and trailing edges to the tip. Then I got to cut the rudder out, do the same thing with that, and then I'll move on to the wings. So I'm thinking by the end of today I'll have for sure the tails done and the wings at least with the leading and trailing edges on it. Maybe flight controls done, we'll see. But yeah, it's moving along quick. Then once I get this bonded in, then I can put in my little foam block that I cut out that goes right here and carve that all in. And then this will be pretty much ready for body work and the final last little details. And then paint prep. So moving along really good. Pretty stoked. And just like that, took me about a minute. Got those glued on, sand them up a little bit, do a fit check. And let me put the flight control on. I'll show you guys what I'm talking about here in a second. Alright, so you see how the hinges are not at the front of the flight control. The hinge points are, that one's a little thin back there. Hinge points are down the center line of the radius on the front of this. So anyways, let me put it in there and show you guys. So now, from some angles, once it's painted, you won't even hardly be able to see anything. I mean, there's a small gap there, but it's hard to do with one hand. But anyways, you can see that when it moves, it stays relatively sealed. And we're not going to need a ton of movement here. Probably that much is all we're really going to need. So anyways, turned out pretty sweet. Just got to spackle it up, and then these are ready to glue on once I get to that point. Pretty stoked. Doesn't look too bad. Looks somewhat natural for that shaped tail. That's the one thing I just didn't want to just like do a constant cord elevator in the back. It just looks silly. So, and the way this is shaped, more load will be here on the inside than the outside, so it keeps the twisting moment down under deflection. So anyways, not bad for a quickie. All right, so I skipped some steps on you guys, but the tail's pretty much done. Got it all hinged and everything. Obviously it's not glued in, so it's falling out, but you get the idea. Pretty sweet. Just got to do some body work on it, obviously. But not bad. Turned out pretty good. It's actually relatively strong. Stronger than I was imagining it was going to be. So get the tip all nice and shaped up. Pretty sweet. Onto the wings. Alright guys, well, I skipped some steps on you. We got the vertical finished up. I mean, obviously I got spackle on here and stuff. Needs to be sanded. Same treatment on the hinge line as the elevators, which also have spackle on them. But you can see here, keeps a nice and tight hinge line. So that just needs to be sanded and finished bodywork on that and the tails. And then I got the wings done up to this point, so I'm ready to cut the flight controls out. See, I have the spots marked in here where they're going to get cut out. Do the same thing as I did on the tails. Balsa wood, 1/64 ply. I'll show that in the next video. This is a 1/2 inch balsa and 1 1/4 inch wide trailing edge stock, and then a 1/4 inch piece on the tip, all blended together. And I've body worked them a little bit already, but anyways, super happy. Right now it's about 3.5 pounds as you see it, so crazy. So the next video I'll be doing the flight controls on the wings, probably gluing the wings together and getting the gear plates in. I have to design the nose gear mount still, but super pumped with how it's looking. Looks freaking sweet. This thing is totally awesome. Definitely 100% T-38. So we just got back from flying with Andy, who's building the second T-38. I gave him all his parts. We did FMS Tiger Cat's information today with the FPV, which was a blast. I think we did 11 flights. So anyways, we had a good time. Hopefully Andy will have videos posted in the next couple of days from that. But yeah, we're getting there. It's getting probably within the next month or so. I think it'll be flyable. Probably won't fly it painted at first. It'll probably just be body worked and clear coated, but won't be painted or anything. So anyways, hope you guys liked the video. We'll see you in the next one. We're getting closer every week, so it's coming along really nice. I'm pretty excited about this one. So hope you guys liked it. Feel free to ask me questions, and we'll see you in the next one.